The Great Hall of Veritas Prime was silent. Too silent. Ambassador Taemin stood at the center of the circular chamber, his scaled hands trembling as he held the data crystal. Around him, representatives from 100 worlds watched with careful, neutral expressions. None of them wanted to hear what he had to say. None of them wanted to help. Velhar Prime is gone, Taemin said, his voice breaking. 3 billion souls. Dead in 6 weeks, he activated the crystal. Holographic images filled the air above the council floor. Beautiful cities with towers that touched the clouds. Crystal-clear oceans where his people had built their civilization. Then the images changed. Black masses covered the land like oil. The towers were being dissolved, consumed by something alive. The screaming started on the audio feed, and several council members looked away. The Drakthul swarm, Taemin continued. They came from beyond the outer rim. We tried to fight them. We tried to run. Nothing worked. They eat everything. Stone, metal, flesh. They grow with every world they take. High Counselor Yuna shifted in her elevated seat. Her feathers rustled with discomfort. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived species. She had seen wars before, but this was different. We have reviewed your request for military assistance, Yuna said carefully. The Council sympathizes with your plight. Taemin felt his heart sink. Sympathy, not help. Just sympathy. But, Yuna continued, committing forces to engage the swarm would put our own worlds at risk. The Kelthran Confederation cannot justify. Taemin's voice rose. My people are dying. Right now, as we speak, the swarm is hunting the refugee ships. Captain Jiwan is leading the evacuation fleet, and she has nowhere to go. Nowhere safe. The swarm follows them. A representative from the Voss Imperium spoke up. His voice was cold, mechanical through his translation unit. Your species was warned about expanding into the outer rim. You ignored the danger zones marked by previous expeditions. This situation, while tragic, is of your own making. Taemin felt rage burning in his chest. We were looking for a new home. Our son was dying. We had no choice. And now you sit here safe in your core worlds and tell us we deserve to die? No one is saying that, Yuna interjected quickly. But the Council must think of the greater good. If we engage the swarm and fail, we could lead them directly to the populated sectors. Trillions of lives hang in the balance. So you sacrifice millions to maybe save trillions? Taemin looked around the chamber. Is this what civilization means? Abandoning those in need because it's inconvenient? The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates agreed with Taemin. Others defended the Council's caution. But no one was volunteering their fleets. No one was offering weapons or supplies. They were just talking, endlessly talking while his people died. Taemin slumped in defeat. He had known this would happen. The Galactic Council was good at debating, at passing resolutions and making speeches, but when real danger appeared, they hid behind protocol and procedure. There must be someone, he whispered. Someone in this galaxy willing to fight. Yuna heard him. Her acute hearing picked up the quiet words. She looked at him with something like pity in her golden eyes. Then her expression changed. She looked thoughtful, then troubled. There is one possibility, she said slowly, though I hesitate to even mention it. The chamber quieted. Everyone turned to look at the High Counselor. Sector 447, Yuna said. There is a species there, pre-contact. We have been observing them for 200 cycles, but we have not made formal contact. They are classified as a quarantine species. A murmur ran through the council. Quarantine species were rare. They were civilizations deemed too dangerous or unstable to join the galactic community. You cannot be serious, the Voss representative said. Those creatures? They are barbarians, violent, irrational, and technologically primitive. They still use chemical propulsion for their spacecraft. They fight wars over resources and beliefs. They are barely out of their own atmosphere. They are also survivors, Yuna said. Their planet should not support complex life, yet they thrive. They have nearly destroyed themselves a dozen times with weapons, diseases, and environmental collapse. Yet they persist. They are warriors by nature. Every aspect of their culture revolves around conflict and survival. Taemin felt a flicker of hope. What are they called? Humans, Yuna said. From a world they call Earth. And before you get too hopeful, Ambassador, you should understand why they are quarantined. They are dangerous, not just to others, but to themselves. They have psychological profiles unlike anything we have encountered. They form bonds with other species easily, but they also wage war with a creativity and brutality that disturbs our xenopsychology teams. I don't care if they are dangerous, Tamian said. I need warriors. I need someone willing to fight the swarm. If we break quarantine protocol, another delegate warned, we could face severe consequences. First contact with a pre-FTL species is forbidden without proper preparation, and these humans are especially volatile. Yuna nodded slowly. That is true, which is why the Council cannot officially sanction this. If Ambassador Tae-min were to make unauthorized contact, it would be on his own authority. The Council would have to condemn such actions, Tae-min understood. She was giving him permission while protecting the Council. If it went wrong, he would take the blame. If it went right, they could deny involvement until it suited them. Where can I find them? He asked. Yuna transmitted coordinates directly to his personal device. Be careful, Ambassador. Humans are not like us. They do not think like us. They have concepts of honor and sacrifice that border on suicidal. They will die for strangers. They will fight impossible battles, and they will use methods that we consider immoral or excessive. Will they help us? That was all Tae-min cared about. I don't know, Yuna admitted. They might, or they might see you as a threat and attack on sight. Or they might help and then become a worse problem than the swarm. Humans are unpredictable. That's why they scare us. Tae-min stood straighter. His decision was made. The civilized galaxy had abandoned his people. Perhaps the monsters would be kinder. I will go to Earth, he announced. I will ask these humans for help. And if they refuse, at least I will have tried everything. The council chamber remained silent as he walked out. No one tried to stop him. No one wished him luck. They just watched him go, relieved that the problem was no longer theirs to solve. As Tae-min boarded his personal shuttle, he sent a message to Captain Ji-won. Keep the fleet moving. I'm going to find help. I'm going to find warriors who will fight for us. Hold on just a little longer. Ji-won's response came back tired and desperate. We're running out of time, Tae-min. The swarm is getting closer. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. The shuttle jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward an unknown world. Tae-min looked at the information Yuna had given him. Images of humans. They looked strange, soft-skinned, and fragile. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no apparent evolutionary advantages. How could these creatures possibly help? But their eyes. Tae-min stared at the images of human eyes. There was something there. Something fierce and calculating. Predator eyes. Maybe, just maybe, he had found his monsters. The journey to Earth would take 3 days. Behind him, the swarm continued to advance. Ahead of him, an unknown species waited. Tae-min did not know if he was bringing salvation or doom to his people. He would find out soon enough. The alarm started exactly 47 seconds after Tae-min's ship appeared in Earth's orbit. In Geneva, at the United Earth Government headquarters, red lights flashed across every screen. Admiral Hyun was in a meeting when her wrist device vibrated with an emergency code she had never seen used in real situations. Unknown vessel detected, the automated voice announced throughout the building. Non-human origin. All defense protocols activated. Admiral Hyun ran to the command center. Around the world, the same scene was playing out. In military bases across every continent, soldiers rushed to their positions. Satellites reoriented, their weapons tracking the strange ship. Fighter jets scrambled into the air. Submarines surfaced to launch their payloads if needed. In orbit, Earth's small fleet of defensive ships moved into intercept positions. Status report, Admiral Hyun demanded as she entered the command center. Single ship, ma'am. It appeared without warning 15 kilometers above Geneva. Technology unknown. No weapons detected, but it's broadcasting on multiple frequencies. We can't understand it yet. General Minho arrived seconds later, his uniform still being fastened. Are we under attack? Don't know yet. The ship isn't moving, just sitting there. Broadcasting something? Dr. Sora burst through the doors, her scientific team right behind her. She had been waiting her entire career for this moment. First contact. Actual aliens. Don't shoot it. Please tell me you haven't shot it yet. We're holding fire, Admiral Hyun said. But our fingers are on the trigger. Can you understand what it's saying? Dr. Sora's team was already working. They had protocols for this. Theoretical frameworks developed over decades. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic physics. Ways to establish communication with unknown intelligence. It's using multiple languages, one of her assistants said. Not human languages. But it's trying different things. Wait. It just switched to mathematics. Basic algebra. It's trying to talk to us. Talk back, Admiral Hyun ordered, but keep all weapons hot. I don't trust this. For 20 minutes, they communicated in pure mathematics, simple equations, then more complex ones. Finally, the alien ship began transmitting images. A planet covered in water, humanoid figures with scales and fins, then images of destruction, black masses consuming everything. Ships fleeing. It's asking for help, Dr. Sora said quietly. Look at the pattern. These are distress signals. Their world is being destroyed. President Yoonji arrived at the command center. She had been pulled from sleep, but her eyes were sharp and focused. Options? We establish communication and find out what they want, Dr. Sora said. We maintain defensive positions and proceed with extreme caution, General Minho countered. This could be a trick. A scout for an invasion. Or it could be refugees, Dr. Sora argued. Look at the ship. It's not military. It's barely holding together. These are people running from something. Admiral Hyun studied the screens. If they can cross space to reach us, they have technology far beyond ours. But they're asking for help. That means they're desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. So are we, President Yoonji said softly. Dr. Sora established two-way communication. Admiral, keep the fleet ready. If this goes wrong, I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We need to learn everything we can. It took 6 more hours before they could actually talk. Dr. Sora and her team worked with the alien's computer to create a basic translation program. When Ambassador Taemin's face finally appeared on screen, everyone in the command center fell silent. He looked tired. His scales were dull and his eyes were red from crying. I am Ambassador Taemin of the Velhari people. Please, I need to speak to your leaders. My people are dying. President Yoonji stepped forward. I am President Yoonji of the United Earth government. We're listening. Taemin told them everything. The Galactic Council, the Dractyl Swarm, the fall of Velhar Prime, the refugee fleet running out of time, the civilized species who refused to help. He spoke for an hour, showing them images and data. Proof of the galaxy beyond Earth. Proof of the threat consuming his people. When he finished, the command center was silent. First contact was supposed to be peaceful, enlightening, a step into a larger universe. Instead, they were being told that the universe was full of cowards and monsters, and something was eating an entire species alive. Why come to us? Admiral Hyun asked. You said we're primitive, quarantined. Why not ask one of these advanced civilizations? I did ask them, Taemin said bitterly. They said no. All of them. They said it was too dangerous to help us, that saving my people might put their own worlds at risk. So I came here because you're the only species the galaxy is afraid of. That got their attention. General Minho leaned forward. Afraid? Of us? Why? Because you fight, Taemin said simply. Your history is written in blood. You've had world wars. You've built weapons that can destroy your entire planet. You've nearly killed yourselves a dozen times. The galaxy watched and decided you were too dangerous to contact. But that's what I need. I don't need diplomats. I need warriors. I need people who understand what it means to face extinction. President Yoonji looked around the room. Every face showed the same mix of shock, anger, and grim determination. They had just learned they were not alone in the universe, and the galaxy thought they were monsters. You're asking us to go to war, she said, against an enemy we know nothing about, to save people we just met, in a part of space we've never traveled to. Yes, Taemin said. I know it's asking too much, but I have nowhere else to go. If you say no, my people die. All of them. The room fell silent. President Yoonji closed her eyes, thinking. This was the most important decision in human history. First contact, and it came with a war attached. Admiral Hyun spoke first. I volunteer my fleet. I'm not speaking for Earth, I'm speaking for myself. But I'll go. I've spent 20 years preparing for threats from space. Well, here's a threat, and there are people who need help. General Minho nodded. My Marines are ready. If the Admiral goes, we go. Someone has to stand up to bullies. Sounds like this swarm qualifies. Dr. Sora looked horrified. You can't just decide to start a war. This needs debate, careful consideration. There's no time for that, Admiral Hyun cut her off. Look at his face. Look at the data. His people have days, maybe weeks. By the time we finish debating, they'll all be dead. President Yoonji opened her eyes. I need to address the world. This decision affects all of humanity. But personally, I think we help. Not because we're monsters, not because we're violent, but because it's the right thing to do. The galaxy abandoned these people. We won't. Over the next 72 hours, Earth went through a transformation. President Yunji addressed the world explaining everything: the existence of aliens, the Galactic Council, the swarm, the choice before them. The response was overwhelming. Volunteers flooded military recruitment centers. Scientists worked around the clock to understand alien technology. Factories retooled to produce weapons and supplies. Earth had been alone, isolated, thinking they were unique. Now they learned they were part of a larger community that had abandoned someone in need. Humanity's decision was nearly unanimous. They would help. Admiral Hyun assembled her fleet. 12 warships, the best humanity had. 8,000 Marines, volunteers, all of them. Enough weapons to crack a small moon, as General Minho liked to say. They loaded supply ships with food, medicine, and ammunition. Everything they might need for a long campaign. Timon watched the preparations with growing horror. These humans were efficient. Too efficient. They talked about killing the swarm like they were discussing lunch. They joked about tactics that made his blood run cold. They modified nuclear weapons to be more effective against organic targets. Are all humans like this? He asked Dr. Sora as they watched Marines training. Like what? So comfortable with violence, Dr. Sora sighed. We fought hard to become peaceful, Ambassador. But we remember how to fight. We're good at it. Maybe too good. That's why we scare you. You don't scare me, Taemin lied. Yes, we do. You asked for monsters, and we're giving you what you asked for. Just remember that when this is over. The fleet prepared to launch. Admiral Hyun stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at Earth in the view screen. She might never see it again. Neither might any of them. But they were going anyway. General Minho joined her. Ready? No, she admitted. But we're going anyway. Those refugees need us. Think we can win. I think we're about to find out what happens when you corner humanity. When you give us a clear enemy and a good reason to fight. She smiled grimly. The swarm picked the wrong galaxy to invade. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed following Taemin's coordinates. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, an ancient enemy waited, unaware that something new was coming to the fight. Something the swarm had never encountered before. Humanity, unleashed and angry. Captain Ji-won stared at her console in numb horror. 3 more refugee ships had gone silent in the last hour. The Drakthul hunters were getting closer, and her fleet was getting slower. Too many damaged ships, too many desperate people crammed into vessels never meant to carry so many. Captain, the Morning Hope is reporting engine failure. They're falling behind. Ji-won closed her eyes. The Morning Hope carried 20,000 civilians, families, children. If they fell behind, the swarm would catch them. Redirect the Steadfast to provide cover. Tell the Morning Hope to transfer all non-essential personnel to other ships. But there were no other ships. Every vessel was beyond capacity. People were sleeping in hallways, in cargo bays, anywhere there was space. Food was running low. Water was being rationed. And the swarm kept coming. Captain, we're detecting multiple Drakthul vessels. They're closing fast. How many? 7. No, 9. Wait, more signatures appearing. They're surrounding us. Ji-won felt her heart sink. This was it. After running for so long, they were out of time. All ships prepare for combat. Protect the civilian carriers. Focus all fire on the hunters. She knew it was hopeless. Velhari ships weren't built for war. They had defensive shields and a few weapons for pirates or accidents. But the Drakthul hunters were designed for one purpose: killing. They tore through shields like they were nothing. Their weapons dissolved hulls. And when they boarded, the creatures inside consumed everything living. Incoming fire. The ship shook as a Drakthul weapon struck their shields. Alarms screamed. People were crying. Ji-won gripped her chair and prepared to die fighting. Then something impossible happened. Captain, new contacts. Right on top of us. More swarm ships? No, unknown design. Oh, ancestors. They're fast. 12 ships appeared between the refugee fleet and the Drakthul hunters. They were different from any ship Ji-won had seen. Crude-looking, angular, covered in weapons. They looked dangerous. We're receiving a transmission. Audio only. I think it's humans. The language matches the one Ambassador Taemin mentioned. Put them through. A woman's voice came through, speaking accented Galactic Common. Velhari Fleet, this is Admiral Hyun of Earth. We're here to help. Keep your ships moving. We'll handle the hunters. Handle them? There are only 12 of you and trust us. Just keep moving. The human ships moved like nothing Ji-Wan had ever seen. They didn't maneuver like spacecraft. They moved like predators, fast and aggressive. The lead ship, Admiral Hyun's flagship, accelerated directly at the nearest Drakthul hunter. What are they doing? They'll collide! The human ship opened fire at point-blank range. Weapons Ji-Wan didn't recognize tore into the Drakthul vessel. Kinetic rounds moving at incredible speeds, energy beams that burned through armor, and something else, missiles that left trails of fire. Those are nuclear weapons, her sensor officer whispered in shock. They're using nuclear weapons. The Drakthul hunter exploded, just gone. Destroyed in seconds. The other human ships engaged with the same ferocity. They didn't use elegant tactics or careful strategies. They just attacked with overwhelming force. Another hunter died. Then another. They're ramming them. Ji-Wan couldn't believe what she was seeing. A human ship slammed into a Drakthul vessel at full speed, its reinforced bow crushing through the organic hull. The impact destroyed both ships, but escape pods ejected from the human vessel before the collision. Who fights like this? Her first officer asked. Who sacrifices ships and crew so easily? Humans, apparently. Captain Day commanded one of the human warships, the Indomitable. His crew worked with practiced efficiency as they tore through the Drakthul hunters. He had trained for this his whole life. Fighting unknown enemies, protecting civilians, this was what he was made for. Bring us around. Target that hunter chasing the damaged refugee ship. Sir, we'll be in range of 3 other Drakthul vessels. Good. Let them shoot at us instead of the refugees. All batteries fire when ready. The Indomitable lit up the darkness with weapons fire. The Drakthul returned fire, their organic weapons splashing against the ship's armor. Shields failed. Hull breaches appeared, but the humans kept fighting. Boarding alert. Drakthul organisms have breached the hull. Dee smiled grimly. Send in the Marines. Let's see how these things like fighting humans up close. Lieutenant Hana led her platoon through the corridors. She had been training for space combat since she was 18. Now at 25, she was facing her first real alien enemy. The Drakthul were horrifying. They looked like insects mixed with crabs, all covered in black armor and dripping acid. They moved fast, cutting through bulkheads with their claws. Fire! Hana shouted. Her Marines opened up with everything they had. Bullets, plasma weapons, flamethrowers. The Drakthul screeched and charged. Some died. Others kept coming, even missing limbs. They don't stop. One Marine yelled. Then we don't stop either. Pour it on. The battle in the corridors was brutal. Close quarters. No room to maneuver. The Drakthul tried to overwhelm them with numbers. The humans responded with firepower and determination. When bullets ran out, they used knives. When weapons failed, they used their hands. Hana tackled a Drakthul creature that got too close. It was stronger than her, but she had combat training and pure stubbornness. She drove her knife into what looked like a sensor cluster and twisted. The thing went still. Corridor secured, she reported, breathing hard. But we lost Jenkins and Rodriguez. Copy that, Lieutenant. Pull back and seal the section. We're venting it to space. Hana got her people out and watched as explosive charges blew out the hull section. The Drakthul still inside were sucked into space. Problem solved. Outside, the battle continued. Of the 9 Drakthul hunters, 6 were destroyed. 2 were fleeing. 1 was crippled and drifting. But the cost was high. 3 human ships were gone. 1 rammed. 2 destroyed in combat. Thousands of humans dead, yet they kept fighting. Ships that should have retreated stayed in combat. Crews that should have evacuated kept manning their stations. Ji-Wan watched in awe and horror as humans died to protect her people. Why? She whispered. Why are they doing this? Admiral Hyun's voice came through on a direct channel. Captain Ji-Wan, status of your fleet? We're intact. Minimal damage. But you lost 3 ships. So many dead. Yes, but your people are safe. That's what matters. You came all this way. You didn't even know us. And you're dying for us. There was a pause. When Admiral Hyun spoke again, her voice was hard. That's what soldiers do, Captain. We fight so others don't have to. We die so others can live. Your galaxy forgot that. We haven't. The Galactic Council was wrong about humans, Ji-Wan said. You're not monsters. Oh, we are monsters, Admiral Hyun said. But we're your monsters now. How far to Velhar 2? 3 days at current speed. But the swarm controls that entire system. The main force is there. Millions of Drakthul organisms. Our colony world is being consumed. Good. Good? We didn't come here for a rescue mission, Captain. We came here to fight. 3 days gives us time to rearm and plan. When we reach Velhar 2, we're taking it back. G1 felt a chill. You can't, the swarm there is too large. Even your weapons can't. You let us worry about that. We're humans. We're very good at killing things that need killing. Over the next 3 days, G1 watched the humans prepare. They were methodical and terrifying. They salvaged weapons from their destroyed ships. They manufactured ammunition using raw materials from asteroids. They trained constantly, running combat drills and simulations, and they laughed. That was the part G1 couldn't understand. These people had lost friends, seen their ships destroyed, and were heading toward a battle that might kill them all. Yet they joked and laughed like they were heading to a celebration. Is this normal human behavior? She asked Dr. Sora, who was aboard one of the refugee ships helping with medical care. It's a coping mechanism, Dr. Sora explained. Humans deal with stress through humor. And through bonding. They're building trust with each other, making sure that when the battle comes, they'll fight as one unit. They seem so eager. That's because they have a clear purpose now. Humans need purpose. We need to feel like we're making a difference. Your people gave us that. We're the first humans to fight for aliens. We're protecting innocents from monsters. That means something to us. But so many will die. Yes, Dr. Sora said sadly, but they'll die as heroes. That matters to humans, more than you might think. On the third day, Velhar 2 appeared on the sensors. The planet looked sick. Black masses covered half the surface. Drakthal ships swarmed in orbit. Millions of organisms were down there consuming everything. Fleet status, Admiral Hyun demanded. 9 ships operational, Marine forces at 60% strength. Ammunition stock sufficient for sustained combat. Good enough. General Minho, are your ground forces ready? Ready and eager, Admiral. Captain Day, prepare the orbital bombardment packages. Yes, ma'am. Targets locked. G1 listened to the communications with growing dread. What are you planning? Admiral Hyun turned to face her on the view screen. Her expression was cold, professional, and absolutely terrifying. We're planning to teach the swarm something they've never learned before. What happens when prey fights back? What happens when humans decide something needs to die? You can't attack. The swarm will overwhelm you. Then we'll take as many of them with us as we can. The first wave hit Velhar 2 like a hammer from the heavens. Admiral Hyun watched from her command chair as orbital bombardment began. Missiles streaked down from the human fleet, each one carrying enough explosive power to level a city. But these weren't aimed at cities. They were aimed at the black masses covering the planet's surface. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The planet's surface erupted in fire. Nuclear weapons detonated in carefully calculated patterns, each blast designed to create maximum destruction of swarm biomass. The heat was so intense it turned sand to glass. The shockwaves tore through Drakthal hive structures like paper. Captain G1 watched the tactical display in horror. You're using nuclear weapons on my colony world? We're sterilizing infection zones, Admiral Hyun said calmly. The swarm spreads through spores and biomass. Fire is the only sure way to kill it completely. Would you prefer we let the swarm keep your planet? G1 had no answer. She watched as more missiles fell. Each explosion killed millions of Drakthal organisms. The black masses retreated from the flames, pulling back toward the hive clusters. Phase 2, Admiral Hyun ordered. Deploy the ground forces. General Minho stood in the dropship with 500 Marines. He had commanded troops in training exercises and small conflicts. But this was different. This was a full-scale invasion against an enemy that wanted to eat them. Listen up, he shouted over the roar of the engines. The Admiral has softened them up. Now we finish the job. Our objective is to locate and destroy the primary hive structures. Kill everything that moves. Show no mercy because they won't show you any. Remember your training. Trust your squad. And let's show this swarm why humanity survived when we should have died out 1,000 times. The Marines cheered. They were scared, but they were ready. They had trained for this. They were the best humanity had to offer. The dropships hit atmosphere hard and fast. Anti-aircraft fire from Drakthal defenders filled the sky. 2 ships went down in flames. 3 more took damage but kept going. They landed in a designated safe zone, an area that had been cleared by the orbital bombardment. Sergeant Bora was the first out of her dropship. She hit the ground running, her rifle up and scanning for targets. The landscape looked like hell. Craters still glowed with residual heat. The air smelled of burning organic matter and chemicals. and in the distance the black masses of the swarm writhed and moved. Perimeter secure. Move out! Her squad advanced in formation. They had practiced this 100 times. But practice was different from the real thing. The Drakthul came at them in waves. Creatures of all sizes, from small dog-like things to massive tank-sized monsters. All of them hungry. All of them fearless. Contact!
Open fire!
The Marines lit them up. Automatic weapons chattered. Explosives detonated. Flame units turned Drakthul organisms into torches. The humans didn't retreat. They didn't hesitate. They just kept firing. They're not stopping, someone yelled. Then neither do we, Bora shouted back. Pour it on! Let them come. The Drakthul had fought many species. They had consumed worlds and civilizations, but they had never fought anything like humans. Most species ran when overwhelmed. Most species broke when casualties mounted. Humans just got angrier. A massive Drakthul warrior charged Bora's position. It was covered in armor plating and stood 3 meters tall. Her bullets bounced off. She didn't panic. She pulled a grenade, set it to magnetic lock, and threw it at the creature's center mass. It stuck. She dove behind cover. The explosion sent pieces of the warrior flying. One piece landed near her. She looked at it with cold satisfaction. Next, General Minho coordinated the ground assault from his command post. His forces were spread across 3 major landing zones. They were taking casualties, but they were holding. More importantly, they were advancing. Sir, we've located the primary hive cluster. It's massive, underground. The entrance is guarded by thousands of Drakthul warriors. Then we'll need to make a bigger entrance. Contact the Admiral. Tell her we need orbital support on these coordinates. 10 minutes later, the ground shook as massive kinetic rounds struck from orbit. The weapons weren't nuclear, but they didn't need to be. They were telephone pole-sized pieces of tungsten accelerated to incredible speeds. When they hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. The entrance to the hive complex collapsed, then exploded outward as secondary charges detonated. A massive crater formed, exposing tunnels that went deep into the planet's crust. That's our opening. All units converge on the primary hive. We're going in. Inside the hive, Bioform Prime felt something it had never experienced before. Confusion. The swarm had fought for thousands of years. It always won. It consumed all opposition. But these new creatures were different. They fought with a ferocity that matched the swarm's own hunger, and they were winning. Bioform Prime was the queen mind, the intelligence that coordinated all Drakthul in this system. It tried to adapt to counter the human tactics. It sent more warriors. It used chemical weapons. It even tried to communicate, to understand these strange creatures. But humans didn't want to communicate. They just wanted to kill. Sergeant Bora led her squad into the tunnels. The darkness was absolute until they activated their helmet lights. The tunnels were organic, made of the same black material as the swarm creatures. They pulsed with disgusting life. Stay tight. Watch for ambushes, and whatever you do, don't touch the walls. They moved through the tunnels in combat formation. Drakthul warriors attacked from the darkness. The Marines' weapons lit up the tunnels with muzzle flashes. Bodies fell, both human and Drakthul, but the humans kept advancing. Sergeant, we're detecting a large chamber ahead. Massive biosignature. This might be the Queen. Good. Load the special packages. The special packages were Sergeant Bora's personal contribution to the assault. Thermobaric charges designed to consume all oxygen in a sealed space while creating temperatures hot enough to melt steel. They were banned by multiple galactic conventions. Humans didn't care. They reached the chamber entrance. It was huge, easily 100 meters across. Inside, Bioform Prime waited. The Queen Mind was massive, a grotesque fusion of brain and body. Tendrils connected it to the walls, to the floor, to everything. It was the heart of the hive, and it tried to speak. The humans heard clicks and whistles. Their translation software picked up meaning. Stop! Negotiate! Understand! General Minho had come down with the final assault wave. He stood at the entrance to the chamber and looked at the Queen Mind. You want to negotiate? Yes, stop, fight, talk, learn. You killed billions of Velhari. You consumed their worlds. You left them with nothing. And now you want to talk? Swarm survive. All species survive. Make peace. General Minho turned to Sergeant Bora. How many charges do we have? 30, sir. Place them all. I want this thing to burn so hot it turns to vapor. Sir, it's trying to surrender. I don't care. It made its choice when it started eating people. Humanity doesn't negotiate with genocidal monsters. We end them. Bioform Prime felt something new then, fear. Real primal terror. The swarm had never felt fear before. It was always the thing others feared. But these humans looked at it with cold hatred, and Bioform Prime understood. It was about to die. Place the charges, General Minho ordered. The Marines worked quickly and efficiently. 30 thermobaric charges placed in a precise pattern around the chamber. Sergeant Bora set the timer personally. 5 minutes, everyone out. Move, move, move. They ran through the tunnels. Behind them, smaller Dracthal creatures tried to stop them. The Marines cut them down without slowing. They reached the surface with 30 seconds to spare. The explosion was beautiful in its destruction. The ground shook. The hive entrance vomited fire. Secondary explosions rippled through the tunnel network as other structures collapsed. Millions of Dracthal organisms died in seconds, burned alive or crushed or suffocated. From orbit, Admiral Hyun watched the hive complex die. Thermal readings showed the underground temperature rising to levels that killed all organic matter. The swarm presence on Velhar 2 was being systematically destroyed. Status report, she demanded. 80% of swarm biomass eliminated. Remaining forces are scattering. Ground forces have achieved all primary objectives. Casualties are at 42%. 42%. Almost half her ground forces dead or wounded. But they had won. Captain Ji-won couldn't believe what she was seeing. The black masses that had covered her colony world were gone. Fires still burned across the surface, but they were cleansing fires. The swarm was dead. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. Of course we did, Admiral Hyun said. She sounded tired. We're humans. When we commit to something, we finish it. But the cost, yes, the cost. Admiral Hyun's face was grim. 3,000 Marines dead. Another 2,000 wounded. 4 more ships destroyed. But your people are safe. Your colony world can be reclaimed. Was it worth it? That's not for me to decide. General Minho stood on the surface of Velhar 2, looking at the devastation. They had won, but it didn't feel like victory. Too many good people had died. Too many soldiers who would never go home. Sir, one of his officers said, we're receiving reports from the perimeter. The remaining Dracthal forces are retreating, not just from this planet, from the entire sector. They're running. Running, why? Because they're afraid, sir. We heard. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most attended in its 3,000-year history. Every species sent representatives. Every world wanted to know what had happened at Velhar 2. Because the impossible had occurred. The Dracthal swarm had been defeated. High Counselor Yuna called the session to order, but she could barely be heard over the noise. Everyone was talking at once. Some were celebrating, others were terrified. A few were demanding answers. Order. Yuna's voice finally cut through the chaos. We will have order, or I will clear this chamber. The hall quieted, but tension filled the air like electricity. Yuna looked tired. She hadn't slept in 3 days, not since the reports started coming in. 3 weeks ago, Ambassador Taemin violated quarantine protocols and made contact with the human species of Earth. He requested military assistance against the Dracthal swarm. The humans agreed. What happened next? She paused, searching for words. What happened next has changed everything. She activated the holographic display. Images filled the air above the council floor. Nuclear weapons detonating on Velhar 2. Human Marines fighting through Dracthal hive tunnels. Ships ramming into swarm vessels. The destruction of Bioform Prime. The council watched in silence. Some looked horrified. Others looked sick. A few looked impressed despite themselves. The humans deployed weapons banned by 12 separate galactic conventions, the Voss representative stated. Nuclear devices, biological agents, chemical weapons. They committed acts that we would classify as war crimes. They also saved 3 billion Velari refugees, Ambassador Taemin said quietly from his position at the petitioner's stand. They died in the thousands to protect people they had never met. They asked nothing in return. They violated our laws. Your laws? Taemin's voice rose. Your laws that let my people die? Your laws that said it was too dangerous to help? The humans didn't know your laws. They only knew that someone needed help and they gave it. The chamber erupted again. Some supported Taemin. Others demanded sanctions against Earth. The debate raged for hours, going in circles. Finally, a new voice cut through the noise. Perhaps we should ask the humans themselves. Everyone turned to look. President Unji stood at the entrance to the council chamber, flanked by Admiral Hyun and General Minho. Elder Kwan, a respected human philosopher, stood with them. They had arrived at Veritas Prime that morning, traveling through space using coordinates provided by Ambassador Taemin. "You have no authority to be here," the Voss representative said. "This is a closed session." "You're discussing us," President Unji said calmly. "We thought we should be present. Or does your democracy not allow the accused to speak in their own defense?" Yuna looked at President Unji for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You may address the council. The galaxy deserves to hear from humanity directly." President Unji walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye was on her. Every species represented here was older than humanity's civilization. They had technology humans couldn't match. They had been traveling the stars while humans were still living in caves. "I am President Unji of the United Earth Government. 3 weeks ago, we didn't know any of you existed. We thought we were alone in the universe. Then Ambassador Taemin arrived, told us about the galaxy, and asked for help. So we helped. You used nuclear weapons," someone accused. "You killed billions of Drakthul organisms." "Yes," President Unji said simply. "We did. Because the alternative was letting the swarm kill billions of Velhari. We made a choice. Maybe you would have made a different choice. But you didn't make any choice at all, did you?" The chamber fell silent. "We're not here to be your soldiers," President Unji continued. "We're not here to be your weapons. We came to this station because we think we deserve to be heard. You call us primitive. You call us violent. You call us dangerous. Maybe you're right about all of that. But we're also the only ones who helped when the Velhari needed it." Admiral Hyun stepped forward. "I lost over 5,000 sailors and Marines at Velhar too. Good people. People with families, with dreams, with futures. They died fighting an enemy they had never heard of before. They died protecting aliens they had just met. And you want to punish us for that?" "Your methods were extreme," Yuna said carefully. "We understand you were trying to help. But the level of violence you employed disturbs many species." General Minho laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Disturbs you? Good, it should disturb you. War is disturbing. Death is disturbing. But sometimes they're necessary. The swarm wasn't going to be stopped with diplomacy or stern warnings. It needed to be fought. And yes, we fought dirty. We used every weapon we had. We killed without mercy, because that's what war is. There must be rules, the Voss representative insisted. Even in war, there must be limits. Tell that to the Velhari, General Minho shot back. Ask them if they care about rules while their planet was being eaten. Ask the refugees if they wish we had been more gentle with the swarm." Elder Kwan stepped forward then. He was old even by human standards, with white hair and a kind face. But his eyes were sharp. "May I speak?" Yuna nodded. "Please." "I am Elder Kwan. I teach philosophy and ethics on Earth. I have spent my life studying questions of right and wrong, and I will tell you honestly, what we did at Velhar 2 troubles me. We killed on a scale that is hard to comprehend. We used weapons that could destroy worlds. We acted as judges, jury, and executioner for an entire species." Some council members nodded, thinking he was agreeing with them. "But," Elder Kwan continued, "I have also studied your history, the history of this Galactic Council, and I have learned something interesting. Over the past 3,000 years, 17 species have gone extinct while under your protection. The Drakthul swarm has consumed 42 colony worlds. Billions have died, and every time the Council has debated, discussed, formed committees, passed resolutions, and done nothing. The chamber was deathly quiet now, so yes, what we did was brutal. It was violent. It was everything you fear about humanity, but it was also effective. The Velhari are alive. Their colony world can be reclaimed. The swarm has retreated from an entire sector for the first time in its history. These are facts." Elder Kwan looked around at all the assembled species. "You call us monsters. Maybe we are. But here is my question for you. What does it say about your civilization that you let monsters do what you would not? You had the power to save the Velhari. You chose not to use it. We had less power, less technology, less knowledge. But we used what we had. So who is really the monster here?" The silence stretched on. Finally, Ambassador Taemin spoke. "The humans saved my people. I don't care what methods they used. I don't care what weapons they deployed. I care that 3 billion Velhari are alive today, because humans were willing to fight for us. The Galactic Council abandoned us. Humanity did not. That is all that matters to me. But what about next time? Someone asked. What happens when humans decide to use their weapons against us? When they turn their violence on the galaxy itself? President Yunji smiled sadly. That's the question, isn't it? Can you trust us? Can you believe that we'll use our strength to protect instead of conquer? I can't give you guarantees. I can't promise we'll never make mistakes or do terrible things. All I can tell you is that we came when called. We fought when asked. We bled for strangers. Judge us by our actions, not by your fears. The debate continued for 3 more days. Some species argued for humanity's inclusion in the galactic community. Others demanded the quarantine be reinstated immediately. A few suggested destroying Earth before humans became a threat. That last suggestion made Admiral Hyun laugh. Try it, please. I'd love to see how that works out for you. In the end, the vote was close. Closer than Yuna had expected. But the humans were granted provisional membership in the galactic community. They would have restrictions. Their military would be monitored. They would be required to follow galactic law, including the bans on certain weapons. Though, Yuna added quietly to President Yunji, we both know you'll keep those weapons anyway. Humans don't give up advantages. We're counting on that. You are? Yes, because the Dracthal swarm isn't the only threat out there. There are other dangers, other nightmares lurking in the dark parts of the galaxy. And now we know that when those dangers come, we can call on humanity. You want us to be your attack dogs, Admiral Hyun said flatly. I want you to be what you already are. Survivors, fighters, protectors. The galaxy needs that. We've been safe for so long that we forgot how to be dangerous. You can remind us. The humans returned to Earth as heroes. The whole planet celebrated. Humanity had proven itself to the galaxy. They were no longer isolated, no longer alone. They were part of something bigger, but they also knew the truth. They weren't heroes to the galaxy. They were tools, weapons to be used when needed and feared when not. It wasn't the welcome they had hoped for. Is it worth it? General Minho asked Admiral Hyun as they watched Earth from the orbital station. Being part of a galaxy that's afraid of us? I don't know, Admiral Hyun admitted. But we saved the Velhari. That's worth something. 6 months later, reconstruction on Velhar 2 was well underway. Human engineers worked alongside Velhari civilians. Former Marine Sergeant